Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by SmartThings. SmartThings lets you control and monitor your home from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. To get started, visit smartthings.com/twit, and you'll save 10% off any home security or solution kit when you use the code TWIT10 at checkout. And by Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what you're paying now, go to harrys.com. And just in time for the gift season, for new and existing customers, get $5 off the limited edition Winter Winston set by entering the code KNOWHOWHOLIDAY at checkout.
Fold your hands. I can't fold my hands. So.
Just do this to the train.
Whatever Padres do, nope.
Your questions, garbage matting, the quadcopter integration, know-how is up next.
We're gonna stick with that?
I don't know.
Might as well. Sure. We are so weird.
Welcome to No Meow, the show where we build, bend, break, and upgrade. I'm Father Robert Balliser.
And I'm Brian Burnett.
And for the next 45, 50, 60 going,
give or take.
Give
We're
or
kind
take
of rusty,
minutes.
so we'll see how long things
It's
take.
been a while. Oh, by the way, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right back at you.
And happy Thanksgiving to all you too.
Did you fill up? You fill your
Surprisingly,
your belly?
no.
Oh.
I was doing the whole Thanksgiving
with friends
turkey
or something?
with soup kitchen
stuff.
It was fun.
Well,
It was
yeah,
good. It was
good.
good.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I had 4 Thanksgivings. I had a lot to be thankful for.
That's a lot of turkey. Did you get some writing in?
A little bit, yeah.
Did you get some driving in?
I did. I got to fly my
Lunchbox?
quadcopter. I didn't get to do the lunchbox. Only had time for the quadcopter. Enough time that I hadn't tightened the bolt enough on one of my props, and it shot off mid-flight. Fortunately, it was only about 5 feet off the ground, but it was bad nonetheless.
At least you didn't destroy it, and for that, we say it's a Thanksgiving miracle.
Definitely, because it was your quad. So.
It's your quad now.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations, you just got a quad.
Yeah, it was that easy.
It was that easy.
Just had to crash it.
Just almost break it. But we've actually got some things to be thankful about here. Specifically, if you're into space, this is an exciting time. Last week, NASA announced Orion. Now, if you haven't been keeping up on your space news, remember Orion was originally the replacement for the space shuttle that was being built for the moon missions, which were canceled in 2010. You remember those?
I do, and I was very disappointed to hear that because it's been a long time since we've done anything that ambitious in space.
Yeah, it has been. And now I love the shuttle. I really love the shuttle. I grew up with the shuttle. It was a marvel of technology, but it was aging. It was aging, and it never really delivered on what it promised.
Right, because it was supposed to be an economical way of getting into space.
And it was never economical.
Right.
And it was supposed to be, the idea is great. Take a craft that can be reused over and over and over again, and yeah, it's going to be a lot less expensive. The problem with the space shuttle was that essentially every time you landed, you had to tear the thing apart.
And check it. Yeah.
And we found out what happens when you don't, when you cut steps. So if you look at Orion, the funny thing about this capsule is it looks a lot like the Apollo capsules.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, like that,
cool.
or the design of the Soyuz. We're going back to this whole simple is better. Make it a capsule. Yeah, it's not really reusable, but at the same time, it's a lot less expensive. There's a lot fewer things that can go wrong, and you use proven boosters to get it up into orbit.
Yeah, I like that, especially with something that's that complex and so many things can go wrong. I think the KISS mentality, keep it simple, stupid, is probably all right for something like that.
Right. Now, they were supposed to launch a test flight today. It got scrubbed. Actually, I was excited because right about now, if it had launched when it was supposed to, it should have been on its way back to re-entry.
Okay.
And we could have actually done live views, but they had to scrub it because they had some issues.
Because they wanted to watch this show instead.
Yeah,
right?
there's a bunch of people over at NASA who were like, whoa, Know-How's on today. We can't be launching anything.
We can't launch today. Yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that Know-How came on today, and we decided to scrub That's good stuff.
Yeah, I know everyone out there is very disappointed, but tune in to twit.tv and you might be happy again.
Yeah. There are a few things that I really like about this. It's going to be launched on the back of a Delta IV heavy launch vehicle, which,
sounds cool.
If you look at it, I mean, it's...
Is it like a monster?
Well, I mean, yeah.
I haven't seen any pictures yet.
It's not like the old Saturns that were just big Roman candles. This actually has like boosters that are next to it. It's like, it's future
It's
stuff.
the future of space.
It's future stuff.
That's
It's very
awesome.
cool. It was supposed to do a 4.5-hour flight. It was going to do 2 laps around the Earth. And the idea was the first lap was something like 270 miles or so. It was essentially where the ISS is.
Okay.
But it was an elliptical orbit, and the next one was going to be 3 times out from that. And the idea was to see, you know, how does it handle? But the big test was going to be how does the heat shield bear on reentry, because it's going to get up to about 4,000 degrees before it splashes down in the Pacific.
That's a little warm.
So, yeah, it's toasty.
And this is this going to be a manned test?
No,
or
no.
This is all automated?
Totally unmanned. I mean, these are still early days. So, a very exciting announcement, but the first you're going to see a manned mission is 2021.
Right.
Yeah, at the earliest. It's going to take a while, and people are even wondering whether or not it's actually going to happen, because by that time, this thing will cost between $18 and $21 billion for the program. Yeah, but I mean, we need something, right? We have no spacecraft right now. The United States has no spacecraft that is capable of putting humans into space. We've got some private space vehicles, but they're not, I mean, aside from the one that Elon Musk is putting together, the Dragon, which has not yet been proven either, we have nothing that will ferry humans into space. We can do cargo, but we can't get it up to the orbits that we need to do actual space exploration.
I forget what the exact date was, but it was like anyone born after 1938 or something like that hasn't been on the moon or something like that. It was like...
It's been a while. It's been a while. And it'd be nice to...
So if you were born after 1938, there's nobody who's been on the moon since then.
Sad.
Yeah.
But you know what's not sad? Feedback. Let's talk a little bit about what our viewers have been asking for the last couple of weeks. We've been off the air for 2 weeks because reasons.
Yes, yeah, because of some very important reasons, yeah. But the first feedback segment that we're going to take a look at is choosing your electronic speed controller, and that comes from Garrett J. from Milwaukee. And I appreciate that it's just J, because whatever his real last name is, I probably wouldn't be able to say.
And we actually have B-roll for this.
Thanks, Padre and Brian, for your episodes on quadcopters. I'd like to know about the tech rather than just assembling it. I've got all of my components except the electronic speed controllers, and I'm stuck. I've seen dozens of models on Amazon, and I don't know which is the right one to get. I'm using an EMAX 2213 980 kV motors. I'm considering the Hobby Power 30 amp for about $17.95, which isn't a bad price. Will that work for me? Is there a better one that I should be looking at? Is there really a difference between ESCs? Garrett J., Milwaukee.
Yeah. Garrett, this is actually a really good question. We didn't get to this at the end of the last episode because we kind of ran out of time. But
Figures.
Yeah, I know. We always run out of time. There is a huge difference. This is not one of those things that you want to trust to just any ESC. I know it's confusing because there's actually very few beginner tutorials on the internet. Most people just assume that you understand what parts you have to get. Now, ESCs, these are the electronic speed controls, the things that go onto your quad that connect your motor to your battery and the flight controller. If you go to the overhead, this is essentially what you look at. So I've got a quadcopter here, so I've got 4 of them because I have to control 4 different motors,
Makes sense.
Now, you could go into Amazon, you could type electronic speed controller, and you can find something like, he's got one from Hobby Power, which are great, but here's the thing. Those were designed for planes and helicopters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these are specifically designed for quadcopters. Now, you can use that Hobby Power. You can use a Hobby Power 30 amp that you buy for $17.95. For a quadcopter, there's a couple of things wrong with it. The speed controller for a plane or a helicopter refreshes its position rate. So they find out from the controller what throttle they should be at, right? And those are, they're going to refresh at about 400 hertz, so 400 times a second. They'll check to see, am I at the right throttle? Yes. Am I at the right throttle? Yes. I'm at the right throttle. Yes.
Okay.
The problem is, the higher you go, the more resolution you get, the more finite resolution. Because otherwise, if you're moving your stick and you move it in between those refreshes, it won't respond immediately.
Oh, okay.
Right? Okay. So 400 is a little low. 500 is the theoretical max because the width of the pulse, the instruction pulse, the PWM pulse, is 2 milliseconds. So you can have 5 of those a second. The speed controllers that are specifically designed for quadcopters run at 500 rather than 400.
Which makes sense because it's very fine motor movements.
Right. Think about it. On a plane, if you don't have immediate throttle response, that's okay because you're still generating lift. That's not the thing that's keeping the plane in the air.
Right.
It's just the airfoil, right? Where on a quad, it's all about the thrust.
Right.
If anything is unbalanced, this thing's going to wobble, it's going to fall out of the air. You get really, really bad things because there is nothing else that's keeping it in the sky.
If one prop starts to come loose, it crashes.
It crashes. Then that's not a speed controller.
That was a speed controller problem.
That was an operator error.
So I'm guessing you wouldn't want to mix and match speed controllers.
Horrible, horrible idea. Really, really.
But Padre, I got a couple laying around from my airplane. I've got 2 good ones from a quadcopter. Let's just throw them in there together.
Yeah, that's like one of those things where if I've seen it, where people have like 1 big controller and 3 small ones. I'm like, what's that for? It goes, well, I didn't have any spares. I'm like,
no, don't do that.
There is another thing. The speed controllers that they use for planes and for helicopters have an averaging function. Now, the idea is, so let's say I'm using my transmitter. On a quadcopter, I want to go from 0 to full. I can do that, and that's fine. And this will actually register to crank it to 100% throttle immediately. I probably shouldn't do that, but it will do that. On a helicopter, you don't want to do that because if you do it, you'll actually grind up the gears.
Oh, because of the torque?
Because the torque, it'll just crank it. Yeah, exactly. So both for planes and for helicopters, it will average the inputs to kind of give it a curve.
Right.
Which is great because you don't want to overstress the plane airframe and you don't want to grind the transmission on the helicopter. But again, on a quadcopter, which has no transmission, this is direct drive. The propeller is bolted to the motor. You want it to go to 100 immediately, especially once you start doing that acrobatic type stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the thing you want to look for, and this is important, you want to look for something called Simon K, S-I-M-O-N-K, just like it sounds, Simon K firmware. He's a programmer who went into the firmware for some electronic speed controllers, and he removed all the stuff that was useful for planes or helicopters, but useless for quadcopters. He got rid of the averaging function, and he upped up the refresh time to 500 hertz, 500 times a second.
Limit. Yeah.
To the theoretical limit. So they respond really, really well. And right now, my source for Simon K is Ready to Fly quads. I've been mentioning them a lot just because at the very beginning, when I started doing this, I was like Garrett. I was buying stuff off of Amazon, and I was like, "Why is this oscillating?" Or why can't I hold this thing straight? And
software.
It was software. And Paul Baxter over at Ready to Fly Quads, he actually reached out to me. He said, I saw your video of your oscillating quad. I'm betting it's your speed controllers. I replaced the speed controllers, boom, done, gone.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So what if you have a speed controller, can you reset the firmware, or is it something that...
You can. It's kind of a pain in the butt, and not all speed controllers can be reset properly. Some speed controllers, when you reset, either they'll brick, and if they're brick, they're gone. Or they'll update, and I've seen this, and then they act funny. And it could just because the components on the board aren't really good. Like for example, if you bump up the refresh rate, but the board's not capable of really handling the refresh rate because they skimped on a couple of components, it's gonna be bad. Okay,
so these Ready to Fly ones have the Simon.
These are all Simon K, right?
Simon K.
And actually, if you go to that link, so this is where I like getting my quadcopter engines and speed controllers. The link that's under Padre's favorite ESCs.
Yes, which one?
Padre's favorite ESCs.
Which one? There's 2.
Yeah, but the first one that's listed.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to go in order. So this is the F30. So this is a 30 amp. This will handle up to 30 amps of current. And $10
for one.
For one, right?
Okay,
so you need 4 of these things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So already this is going to be cheaper than Amazon. This is one you want over that Hobby Power. I actually know the Hobby Power he's talking about because I have it.
And these come with bullet connectors, it looks like.
No. So these are completely unsoldered. And this is why I didn't recommend. I recommended the Hobby King kit first.
Yeah.
Because that's solderless. In fact, the kit we're going to be assembling next week, it's got no soldering whatsoever. Basically, you just assemble it, you screw in a couple of bolts, you're good to go. These will require you to know a little bit of soldering and a little bit of electronics and kind of know how to build a quadcopter before you actually use them. That's why we're holding off on using them until some of the more advanced episodes.
Okay, it makes sense. I mean, these ones are pretty cool looking too, actually. I like these. They're little red boards, but I don't know. So that time you were having issues with your quad and it was a speed controller.
Yep.
These are just like little computers on a board?
Yeah,
or?
they're little computers. Also, the only thing that these do is they have part of the board that talks to the controller and says, where should I have my throttle?
Okay.
And then it has the part of the board that connects to the battery, and it will restrict the amount of power that goes to the motor based on where that throttle position is.
That's pretty cool.
So it's a light switch. It's a glorified light switch, but you need a good light switch, otherwise you end up with faulty lights.
Yeah, especially when you're flying.
Yeah, that's bad. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, let's go on to the second question. We've got no B-roll for this one, so just go ahead and read it.
All right, this one comes from Shane Walsh, and he wants to ask about premise networking. I was thinking of putting a wire in every room of the house with a patch panel. I was wondering how the patch panel works. Must all the ports in the front of the patch panel be connected to the router, or am I just better off getting a switch? I don't know.
Yeah, so we covered this in episode 79. If you want to know how to do premise wiring, go to episode 79. I actually give you a tutorial on how it works. I get this all the time. People go, well, if I'm just going to plug it all into the switch, why do I do a patch panel? And that's totally legit. I mean, if you really want to skimp on what you do, you don't have a lot of resources, you can essentially just make one long patch cord.
Okay.
You could have a connector on one side and a connector on the other. One side plugs into your switch, one side plugs into your computer, and all the wire in the between goes through your house.
Right.
The reason why you want to use a patch panel is because it gives you it gives you flexibility.
Some more options.
It gives you some more options. So, for example, in the house that my brother-in-law just reconstructed in Fremont, there's every room has a panel of 4 ports, right?
Okay.
And so those 4 ports have wires attached to them that go all the way down into the garage. And then there's a patch panel that's labeled. So it'll say bedroom port 1, 2, 3, 4, bedroom 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, et cetera. Now, he doesn't need to have those all connected to switches because not everything in there is going to be connected to a switch, right? Also, he could use one for a phone. Or he could say, okay, this one's a special network that only works with security cameras that's not connected to anything else. That's the kind of flexibility you get with a patch panel. In other words, I can take a glance. I can have, like for that house, he's got 4 different panels of 24 ports.
Right.
And he can say, I need this one, this one, this one, this one to go into this switch. This gets patched back into this, because let's say I have a device on one side of the house that I want to talk to another. I can have them talk directly without having to go through the switch.
Right.
That's why you do premise wiring.
I see.
Yeah, if you're looking for a cheap way to do it, that's not the cheap way to do it, but it's the way to do it that's going to give you more flexibility in the long run.
Right. I think, yeah, the way you're looking at it is you're kind of future-proofing it. So it's like, oh, if I decide I want to do something else, like I have these options.
Yeah.
But if you're just thinking, oh, I just want to connect these 2 computers, there's nothing else I really care about. But then a few months down the line, you're like, well, I wanted to connect a phone too or something.
Yeah. And you get really funky. And this is actually one of the things I see even in enterprise wiring, premise wiring, which is you do something now because it's easy and because it's fast.
And then you think, oh, that's all I need to do.
That's all I need. And then 6 months down the line, you've completely forgotten what you've done. And now you've got wires sticking out everywhere. Most of them aren't labeled, and you're just going, oh, what? What do I want?
So you're just trying to save some people a headache?
Yeah, you're saving yourself a headache. And because they're all patch panels, they're physical patch panels, essentially it's documentation. You've documented what is in your house.
Yeah, so put the work in up front and save yourself some time later.
Right. Or you could just be lazy and make a bunch of patch cables.
Yeah, it's up to you. But I like the way you've thought it out. So.
Yeah. We've got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and push forward. But before we get to garbage matting in Adobe Premiere, I want to take time to talk a little bit about SmartThings. Now, if you are a geek, and let's face it, if you're watching the show, you are a geek, then you are all about automation. You like automation. Everything from your Nest thermostat to your Philips Hue lights to maybe even your X10 modules if you're kind of old school. But the question is, what do you do to join all those things together? Well, Brian, if you could, go ahead and start unpacking the SmartThings. This, folks, is what you need if you want your life to be automated. SmartThings lets you control and monitor your home from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. Now, the idea is it lets you use smart power outlets, moisture sensors, triggers to turn your home into a smart device. Now, here's how it works. We know that you've got a lot of different devices that might want to be automated, but it starts with this. This is the Smart Hub. Once you have this device connected to your network, so you just just a little Ethernet cable in the back.
Yeah.
It allows you to control not just other smart devices. Here's one for open and close. So if I have to worry about whether or not a door or a window is closed, I can put this onto a windowsill or onto a door jamb. I've got this one for moisture. Maybe I want to have something underneath the house that detects when I have excess moisture, or maybe in a pantry that leads to the crawl space. Here's one for smart power outlets. What do you got there?
Oh, this is a motion detector.
Yeah.
This would be great because so Greg just has a puppy and he tries to get in all places in the house. And there's one room that he always searches out because he thinks, hey, this is the one place I can take a bath or take a leak in.
Yeah.
I could throw in the moisture sensor and I could use the motion sensor and be like, puppy alert, he's gotten in.
But I mean, see, that's the thing that I like about SmartThings, which is it's not like a security system where you have someone come in and say, okay, well, you've got motion zones here, and this is your door. No, you get to design this. In fact, you could use tools like IFT, right?
Yeah,
if this then that. If this window and that door are open, then do this. Or if you detect motion in this room and that room, then do that. That's really what they want to do. They want to give you the ability to turn your house into an Internet of Things, and then let the Internet of Things run its course. Now, the most brilliant part about this, because there's a lot of systems out there that will do something like SmartThings. There's systems that will give you all this functionality. The problem is they all tend to be proprietary.
Right. No, this is a cool way of being able to put it together. It comes in this nice little kit, and you can kind of play with it the way you want.
Exactly. And there's nothing better than being able to play with the toys that you just bought. And this is a toy that actually has
I kind of want to
purpose.
set this up in the no-hole, you know?
Yeah.
Have a motion detector making sure,
Actually,
oh, somebody's coming.
What we would do is we would put like the present sensor, just hide it on Burke.
Oh, yeah.
So that every time he
He wouldn't
crosses that
notice.
threshold, we're like, oh, no. Turn off all the lights.
Alert! Nobody's back here. Nobody's here.
But it talks with the gear from other manufacturers. I mentioned the Nest thermostat, and I mentioned maybe you've got Philips Hue lights. Those are all automation in and of themselves, but they've got like a very small corner.
Right.
Maybe there's a light switch from one manufacturer that you really want to use, or a watering lawn sensor from another manufacturer. Well, this is what SmartThings does. It brings all those devices together so that you can turn your Internet of Things into something that's more personal than just a single device, a single remote, or a single app.
And if you've taken the time to patch your house with that network we were just talking about, you can have one set for this. It's just a little Ethernet port in the back.
Right. Now, all of this is available for control with an iOS app, with Windows Phone, with Android. And if you were watching us, then we know that you like do-it-yourself projects, and there's really no better do-it-yourself project than your house. Now, they recently announced in 2015 that you'll be able to control and automate a variety of Samsung appliances. In other words, the smarts are going to be built into those products from major manufacturer Samsung. That includes refrigerators, washers, dryers, air conditioners, and even a robotic vacuum. Now, here's what we want you to do. We want you to get started in creating your smart home. Customize the way that you want to use it. Visit smartthings.com/twit and you'll save 10% off any home security or solution kit by entering the code TWIT10 at checkout. For fans of TWIT, solution kits start at just $170 and home security kits start at $350. Each kit includes a SmartThings hub with everything you'll need to turn your home into a smart home in as little as 15 minutes. You'll also get free shipping within the United States. That's smartthings.com/twit. Smartthings.com/twit. And remember to enter the code TWIT10 at checkout. And we thank SmartThings for their support of know-how. No meow.
No meow.
No meow. No meow.
Oh man, I want to play with this.
I keep checking to see if are we getting new stuff? Because
take it home.
Stuff. Shh, don't tell them that.
All right, what do we have next?
Okay, so what we wanted to do is we wanted to break a little bit away from the quadcopter stuff. We know we've been a little heavy on that, and give you something that, well, if you've ever tried to produce content, is an invaluable tool. It's probably built into the editing tool that you're already using, either Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro.
Yes. I think I previewed some of this, and it looked like you had quite a bit of fun making it.
I did have a lot of fun. Now, I could tell you all about layering and garbage matting and 4-point and 8-point garbage mats and how they work, but I'm thinking before we do that, Alex, let's just show them the video.
I'm not sure.
I have too much free time.
Yeah. What if I just witnessed?
I know. Okay, so that little fun thing, I did that a while back. It took like an hour and...
an hour to call up all your clones?
Yeah, well, you know, they had to get over here. And
right,
we had to put on all the same clothes. I don't have many of those shirts, so, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but that is garbage matting. Now, that's an extreme example. Most of you aren't going to use garbage
Very
matting
extreme.
to do that. But essentially what we did was I had a camera set up, and the camera never moved.
Right.
And then I had a track that I was playing, and it was the Doge Adventure. So I would play the Doge Adventure, and I mapped out different spots in the studio where I could be able to do action, and it wouldn't overlap with another one of
Because you need to crop the image to where you are, and that's why you don't walk like back and forth through the frame.
Although I do. See, there are a few times where I will walk through a frame, or actually, if you watch it again, there's a part where I take my hat off and I pass it to another one of my clones. So
That
you
takes
have to
some
plan all of
forethought,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to think about what you're going to do. And actually, I screwed up once because there were cables that are on the floor. And at one point,
There's a giant
Greg
me
actually
that
walked by
pops-
and he like kicked one. And I'm like, oh!
So is that why there's a giant me that pops up through the thing?
Actually,
Are
the giant U actually covers some of these, some of those
thought
things.
so.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, can you step out of frame for a second?
Oh, also, if you are really good at garbage matting, you could do it.
You can come back.
You could do it live, and see. Wait, I don't.
Well,
I don't know. He's got something planned.
Just taking a sample here.
There's going to be some bad stuff that's going to go on. But let's go ahead and show you. Let's break it down and show you how you would do garbage matting. If you go ahead and go to my computer, Alex, this is what the project file looks like for that Doge Adventure thing. Now you'll notice that there's not much going on at the very beginning. So here it's just four of me actually that are going to come onto the set. Now these, I considered these my principal shots. So they would be there most of the time. Now, in order to do this, you'll notice that there's a couple of shots I had to watch for my shadow. So I couldn't send myself in for the next shot until that shadow had cleared the table so the next one could come in. Otherwise, those shadows would overlap. And again, that's just looking at your environment and making sure those shots are going to work. Then what I did was this. If I start actually taking out layers here, you can see what parts are being hidden and what parts are being shown off. So the base layer looks like this. So this is the only thing that's in the base layer. That's going to be in every one of the shots. That was the original. And then what I had to do was I had to bring in additional layers in order to bring them over the top. So you'll notice in layering, the things that are on the top of your screen have more precedence than the things that are on the bottom. So if I put something up here, it's going to show up over something at the bottom. I mean, you know
that makes
right?
sense.
That's basic layering. But if I look at this, so let's look at just what's inside this layer. Take this away. So now there's nothing. That layer actually only contains me at the bottom.
Wow.
And I've used a garbage mat. This is an 8-point garbage mat to surround me, to cut out all that area so that I'm not affecting any other part of the shot. Then I layer on top of that. Let's go ahead and go to a place that has more.
You look very relaxed.
I look chill. I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm just totally chill. So I'll add on top of that, I'll add this layer in. which is me over on the corner here. Then I'll add another layer in, and it's me on the side, and another layer. And this time I'm, oh, that one's not shown. There we go. That's me, that's Max Trollbot over in the editing room.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you just keep adding these layers, and as you add up the layers, you're gonna fill up more and more of the frame. And as you fill up more of the frame, you start to fill up what used to be your clean plate. So I've got those scenes active, and then when I add in the clean plate, it
looks like they're all there.
It looks like they're actually all there. Let me show you how it actually works when you're creating a mat. So I'm gonna go ahead and take all this stuff out again. Let me go and do this. There we go. So now we're back down to just me chilling in the corner here. If I go up into my effects, you'll notice that I've added an 8-point garbage mat. If I take away the 8-point garbage mat, it will actually show me the entire scene, right? So, but if I add it back in, that's what I've cut out.
Right. And so if you didn't have the garbage mat, that would just cover everything.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And if I didn't use garbage mats, it would mean that the scene at the top would be the only thing that you see. That top layer, this one right up top here, you would only see this because it would cover everything below it.
Right.
But since I've cut out the garbage portions that I don't want, come back here. Sorry, there we go. Because I've gone ahead and removed that, everything below it will be seen through it. It will shine through the mat itself. Now, if you look at what's actually in the mat, let me go and select that effect. I've got these little pointers here that allow me to decide. So it's going to show me what am I cutting out at the scene.
So you got to be careful about that because you don't want to cut off the top of your head, I guess. Right.
So what I would typically do is I would scrub through I would set a mat and I would scrub through that entire layer to see if I'm actually going to be, like, am I cutting off an arm?
Oh, because if you're moving or you're walking.
Correct, right. Yeah, like this is easy because when I'm down at the bottom here, I'm not doing anything and it's relatively easy. But for example, if I look at some of the other layers, let me go ahead and let's see.
I'd like to see your hat handoff one.
Yeah, so let's see, actually there it is, see? That's the hat handoff. So I take the hat and I throw it there. And then there's going to be another one of my clones that's actually in a later take that's going to go and it's going to take the hat.
I see.
But so what you can also do is in a couple of these shots, I had the keyframe would move. So it would allow me to change the garbage mat in real time. So I could essentially surround a bubble of myself as I move through the scene in order to make sure that it doesn't cut anything else. Like for example, when I'm doing this one right here, you can see you're gonna see me come at the bottom. Where is he?
To pick up the hat.
Yeah. See. So there's a bubble surrounding me there.
Oh man.
Yeah, and actually you're doing a very good job of covering up the movement of the cables.
I'm glad I could help.
Right. So this is not a plugin for Adobe Premiere. This is built into Adobe Premiere. And in fact, this is also built into Final Cut. And any decent editing suite is going to have garbage matting.
You just need to spend the time to do it and disappear.
Yes, this is a mat. So what he's done is he's decided that everything from here back is being cut out. And he's replacing it with a still that he took of Brian not being here. Stop.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, we're going to show you some more advanced techniques like this. And Brian's been doing this forever, so he can also show you some interesting projects. But what we'd like to see you do is we'd like to see you do some projects of your own. Please submit them. Go ahead and put them into our Google Plus group. Just go to plus.google.com, look for us, look for know-how, and give us the link. We want to show off what you can do. Pick something simple. One of the simplest shots that I've seen someone do, pick a table like this, set up a camera, and like do a speech, like one side of the speech, and then go to the other side and do the other side of the speech.
What was that Eddie Murphy movie where they're like, his whole family is just him and he's sitting at the table?
Yeah, that's all garbage, man. I know what you're talking about. Like Nutty Professor or something like that.
So if you plan it out well enough, it could be like you pass the glass to your other self.
Right.
Thank you.
But pick an easy one. Pick one where it's like divided down the middle.
Right.
And also, like this would be horrible to match because this changes.
It changes. You can't control
the lighting. And the
lighting
changes, right. That's the other thing. Don't do this outdoors because it's almost impossible to get it right because the sun
You'd have to do it very
change
quickly and make
position.
it pretty simple.
Exactly.
And then be aware of like what's happening in the background.
Yeah, see? Like this. Yeah. This would make for a horrible garbage mat because you're never going to be able to make these things match.
Right.
Right. But once you
job,
get a
Alex.
little bit of style, once you get a little bit of understanding about it, you can do some crazy stuff.
Yeah. It seems like you've spent a little bit of time getting used to play with a lot of different layers on there.
To be fair, I did have a template to base this off of. Remember during the
What?
Harlem Shake craze?
Oh, yes.
I did a Harlem Shake that was just 14 versions of me.
Yep, actually, I do remember you showing me that and saying, someday I will do a know-how of this. I didn't know you were going to do this, though.
Yeah. One other thing I will say is garbage matting and layering it in any editor is kind of processor/GPU intensive. So know that if you go beyond like 4 layers, unless you've got a decent computer, it's really going to bog down and you get a little bit frustrated. That's why I'm saying start with your clean plate and maybe 2 layers on top of it.
Yeah.
Do that and then progress. And then if you need more, then you're going to have to upgrade your computer.
And then, so you were saying you can key the garbage mat. Was that pretty time intensive?
It's very time intensive.
Because you have to set each frame where you're going to key the mat, kind of.
And this is why there's a lot of people who do a project like this, and they'll just start and then fix errors. It's really hard to fix errors because you've got keying that might interfere with other keying.
Right.
And so that, I like to take a frame. So what I did was when I set up the camera, I took a frame of that picture and I went back to my computer and I mapped out where, from what time to what time. And it was easy for me because I had a soundtrack. Right. So I would know at 1 minute and 37 seconds on the soundtrack, I have to walk this way. On 57 seconds on the soundtrack, I have to move that way. Right. And that way I could always ensure that the keying wasn't going to interrupt each other.
Cool. Okay, so get your set. Make sure that you can control the way the background looks for the majority of the time in the lighting, and then think about what you want to do before you start shooting. And then when you sit down to edit, you're like, well, I can't make this work. So
yeah, and actually, Dr. Morbius is saying you can actually have keyframes that do automatic calculation. I believe both Final Cut and Adobe Premiere 6 will do that. It's not always accurate, but at least it could give you a starting point, and then you can go in and you can readjust. I like to do things manually because I've always found the automatic features to be annoying. They're just,
Yeah. Well, I think I know what I'm going to look up next to learn how to do in Premiere.
Absolutely. Now, when we come back, we're going to go ahead and do the first segment of Quadcopter integration. Yeah. So for the last, I think it's been 7 weeks, we've been talking about quadcopters, specifically about the parts, because we want you to know why quadcopters work, how they work, what parts you have to get, what determines what's a good part and a bad part. The next 3 episodes are all about putting it together and then flying it.
The fun part.
The fun part, right. We slogged through. You stayed with us through all the difficult stuff. Now we're going to get to the fun stuff.
Learning about it is a lot of fun too, but it's definitely, the goal is to be able to fly it. So.
Yeah. But before we do that, let's go ahead and take a break to talk about the second sponsor of this episode of Know-How. And it's got to be Harry's. It's the end of November.
It is, and I haven't quite gotten to shaving this all off, but I have to clean it up occasionally.
Yeah.
I don't want it to just look scruffy.
Well, scruffy might actually work for you. Not so much my look, but for someone with a rustic charm like you.
I think you just say that because you set the bar at scruffy and then you just stick there. Yeah, nobody knows any better.
Now, Harry's has been our absolute de facto benefactor for shaving here. And actually, Alex, I believe you've got B-roll you have to run. But when we talk about Harry's, we talk about the place to get all of your shaving supplies online. For guys who want a great shave experience, this is where you go. Do you have someone on your gift list that is impossible to shop for? That guy in your life who has everything? Well, I've been trying to get stuff for people, and I'm not very good at it, but a shaving kit. I mean, a real shaving kit, a good shaving kit with high-quality blades, with good lather, and just with the feel of something that's going to last. That's always something a little bit special. Our friends at Harry are here to help you in this time of need. Just in time for the holidays, Harry's has a limited edition Winter Winston set for $30. The kit comes with a sleek razor handle in your choice of charcoal, gray, or ice blue. And as usual, it comes with 3 high-quality blades and their foaming shave or gel cream. It's already wrapped, and shipping is always free. I've been using Harry's for a while now, not just to cut my eyebrows, but because it is a high-quality blade. Now, this one I really like. I've got the silver one. I know, but this thing is, look at that. Yeah, and it feels right. I mean, if you're one of these people who uses like a plastic shaver, having something of high quality, actually makes it just look better.
These are nice.
Now, they also have aftershave moisturizer that protects and hydrates skin, and they guarantee that you'll be satisfied because they make their blades. That means a couple of things. One, they can control the quality, and two, you can find their blades for about half the price of what you would do in the store. You know, in the store where you have to go down that aisle and find the blades in that locked cabinet because they're like gold.
Yeah, and to be fair, I haven't been shaving a lot, but I've had the same blade for about a few months.
Yeah.
I haven't had to change it.
Yeah, and that's just the difference between having a generic blade that they made off of a mill somewhere. And
because sometimes it feels like they're only good for one go, and then after they dry off,
and then it's pulling your hair off. It's not shit. Yeah. And Harry's, they make their blades, so they make them to be blades. They don't just make pieces of steel that later get turned into blades.
Right.
They, from the beginning, know, well, this is the steel that we need to make the best possible blade we can for
they
our
control
kids.
the whole process.
Yeah. Now, as a special offer, Harry's is giving all of our fans $5 off the limited edition winter Winston kit. That's a lot of W's.
Yeah.
Now, that's right. Now, even those who are already loyal users, if you want this, and yeah, this is actually really nice. I like this blue handle. I'm probably going to steal that. You can get it too. Yeah, all you have to do is go to harrys.com and look for the special offer for the Winston kit. Ooh. That's right. And you will get $5 off that Winston kit, even if you are a current member. You'll get the razors, 3 quality blades, a tube of their foaming shave gel or shave cream, and free shipping for just $25. Free shipping ends on December 10th, so do it now. Go there. Go to harrys.com and get $5 off the limited edition Winter Winston set with code KNOWHOWHOLIDAY. That's KNOWHOWHOLIDAY. All new and existing customers get $5 off their purchase with that code, KNOWHOWHOLIDAY. That's Harry's, HARRYS.com, and enter the code KNOWHOWHOLIDAY at checkout. Harry's. It's a good shave, is a good enough to gift, and we thank them for their support of Know-How.
Look at the awesome little mammoth logo,
right?
too. And then just this morning when I was using my my shave creme,
This stuff's good.
I found out they have lottery numbers on the back. So
Why aren't you playing that?
Because I don't do lottery. I know the odds, but maybe I'll try it. Now they have some numbers for me.
Give it a go. Now, I like shaving as much as the next person, but this next bit is what I'm really interested in.
What's that?
We have to talk a little bit about transmitters.
Transmitters? Ah, yes. The sending signals to quadcopters.
Yeah, because they don't work real well unless they're actually getting input. We've got a couple of examples here. This is the FlySky T6. This is the one that we chose for Project Quadcopter because it's inexpensive.
And it looks cool.
It looks cool. It's actually pretty full-featured for the price. This is a Futaba 6J. Ooh. This one's not as full-featured, but it's got advantages over the FlySky, which we'll point out. I think the best thing to do right now is, Alex, go ahead and push the button.
The radio that we chose for Project Quadcopter is a FlySky T6, a 6-channel Mode 2 transmitter that can be had for under $55. Mode 2 refers to the way that the controls are set up. In a Mode 2 transmitter, the right stick is responsible for elevator and aileron. Up and down control the elevator, translating into forward and back for the quad. Left and right is your aileron, strafing the quad left and right. In both directions, a spring-loaded gimbal will return the sticks to neutral when released. The left stick is different. The up and down motion of the stick does not have a spring-loaded return because it's your throttle, or motor power, and you don't want it returning to center, also known as 50% power, on its own. The left and right motion of the stick is your rudder, which will yaw or rotate your quad around its vertical axis, left or right. Now that you've got the layout of the basic controls, you need 4 channels to fly a quadcopter, let's take a look at some of the features that you'll find on a decent flight transmitter. The first feature is channel reverse. On the T6, you'll find it in a scrollable menu. The menu will show you a visual representation of your channels and whether or not their input is reversed. There are plenty of reasons why channels would need to be reversed, but most of them boil down to personal preference. If you don't have a screen on your transmitter, reverse control will most likely be found in a series of switches in the battery compartment or on the back of the transmitter. Another universal feature is trim, the ability to tweak the controls on your transmitter to account for drifting. Our KK Flight Controller, with its built-in screen, lets us know the values it's receiving from the receiver. You can use those values to trim to neutral so that the quad won't tend to drift in any direction. However, if you've got a decent transmitter, then it has sub-trim controls. This is a much better way to trim your craft, as it allows you to permanently fix offset values without using stick trims. Sub-trims can't accidentally be thrown off by an errant trim press, and doing it this way frees up the sticks to trim for flight-specific environments. Another feature you'll see if you have a 5-channel or higher radio system is assignable auxiliary channels. You need 4 channels to fly a quad, but you can use additional channels to toggle features, control cameras, turn on lights, or change the flight characteristics of your craft. In addition to the 4 channels controlled by the sticks, the T6 features 2 dials and 4 switches that can be menu assigned to either of the 2 remaining channels. A feature I find essential for quad flight is throttle curve. This allows you to increase and decrease sensitivity of the throttle stick as it passes through its range of motion. You want your quad to hover at about 50% power. However, a linear throttle curve will pass through that point quickly, resulting in throttle oscillation as you try to keep the same altitude. You'll be fighting your quad as it goes up and down while you try to find the elusive hover point. If you tweak the throttle curve to increase the throttle response in the low and high range of the stick, but decrease it in the middle of its range, then your throttle will be in the hover zone for a longer throw of the stick, meaning that your quad won't porpoise. Many transmitters also have a feature that allows you to store profiles for multiple models. This means that you can buy several relatively inexpensive receivers, install them in other craft, and use the same transmitter to control them all, one at a time. Our FlySky T6 can control up to 20 different models, each with its own name and set of flight characteristics. You can set the trainer quad for gentle, forgiving flight, the FPV 250 for high performance, twitchy flight, and the Big 550 class for smooth, camera-carrying flight. As the transmitter is usually a large percentage of your outlay, not having to buy a new one for every new model greatly reduces the cost of this hobby. Of course, to do that, you need to bind your new receivers to your transmitter. The binding process will vary between manufacturers, but for our T6, the process is simple. First, switch to a new model profile, input basic flight information, and turn off the receiver. Next, find and connect the bind plug for your receiver. If you power up the receiver with the bind plug connected, it should go into ready-to-bind mode. On our T6 transmitter, the bind button is on the back. Holding it down while turning on the transmitter will bind it to the receiver, which should then go into ready-to-receive mode. Remove the bind plug, and now you have multiple receivers in multiple model profiles on the same transmitter.
Now, there are a few things that you need to know as you start shopping for transmitters for your quad. First is they're not compatible. With very few exceptions. If you buy Futaba, you're going to be using Futaba parts. If you buy FlySky, you're going to be using FlySky parts. Spectrum is a big one. People in the hobby love Spectrum. A bit more expensive, but they're also more full-featured. So even though these are all technically 2.4 gigahertz transmitters, they're not going to work across systems.
Okay, so you have to keep that in mind if you want to keep building up your quad.
Right. Here's another thing. There's a reason why this one is $54 and this one is $180.
They don't look that much different.
They don't look that much different. And actually, this has more features than this. Because this has more auxiliary controls. It has multiple knobs. The difference is what comes in the back end. So, for example, the Futaba tends to put out a cleaner signal than the FlySky's series of transmitters, so that means you can go further. Also, the Futaba can do things like what's called diversity. So this receiver, if you take a look, go in the overhead, this receiver actually has 2 dipole antennas. Now, those antennas can hang on either side of the craft, and it will automatically choose the antenna based on how strong the signal is.
Oh, okay. So if you're facing a different direction, as you get farther away, this will. That would have been really helpful on some of our littler quads.
Exactly. The other thing that this will do that these FlySky receivers will not is it has what's called a failsafe, a programmable failsafe.
Oh.
You can tell it what to do when it loses radio contact. So on the FlySky, if I lose radio contact,
it just keeps going.
Well, no, these are designed to chop everything.
Oh.
So basically fall out of the sky.
Kill it,
Yeah, and that's actually, it sounds bad, but that's actually good because you don't want it running away.
Right, and flying onto a roof or in a tree.
Into a person, into a car, onto a freeway. And typically, if it chops throttle, unless you've been flying like really low and far away, if it chops throttle, you'll probably get back into a transmitter, into like the signal bubble, and you can try to bring it back. That's still not ideal. I mean, I would only use this line of sight.
Okay.
I would have to see the quad in order to be able to use it.
Yeah, I don't think I could use a quad if I wasn't able to look at it.
This will do something different. So if this loses signal, if this can no longer communicate with the transmitter, it will engage failsafe mode. And I can program the failsafe. So one of the modes is remove all inputs and keep throttle at 50%.
And so hover.
So it will hover and wait for you to reacquire signal.
So then you could run back into the range of
Exactly.
the quad.
Another way, and this is actually the way I've done it, is it starts reducing throttle and it puts it into a lazy left turn. And so the idea is it'll actually start turning back towards you.
Oh, okay.
All right, and so it actually may reacquire signal all of its own. That's a more advanced feature. Something else that this will do that this won't is I can use what are called satellite receivers. So I can actually take a module and put it like a 500 yards away from me. And if it loses connectivity to my transmitter, it will actually start talking to that satellite receiver, and I'm talking to the satellite receiver. So it's like a cell phone repeater.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's also a good way to get around corners. If you can. Yeah, so
that's pretty cool.
You got to keep all this in mind as you're choosing your transmitter. They will all do the same basic stuff. So what I talked about with servo reversing, with trim, they're all going to do that. In fact, these will all do throttle curve.
Yes, the throttle curve, I didn't realize how handy that was until I started playing with it, but you were right. Like, there's a certain curve that you want to get to, and you want to have that flexibility of being able to make the copter hover. But during earlier, we were talking about how I would prefer to have my profile where the curve towards full throttle gets a little steeper.
Right.
Because when I was flying the quadcopter, I would kind of level out, and I'd want to give it more throttle without having to like gas it, but because the plateau was so long on your curve, it kind of threw me off. But that's just a difference in flight. And
that's why you got to learn the throttle curve, because the throttle curve will depend on your own personal flying preference. So the way I had that quad set up was it was trainer mode, and in trainer mode, it spent, if you go into the overhead, it basically spent from there to there. That was hover.
Right. Yeah. You didn't.
Whereas like from here to here, that would get you into hover. And then from here to there, that's you gassing it.
Full throttle.
Yeah. There's some other people who they want hover down here.
Right.
And then this is a gentle curve to maximum acceleration.
Yeah.
So you can, and that's the nice thing about that. This has
around with it.
This has 4-point throttle curve. This Futaba has a 6-point throttle curve.
But like you're saying, it's good for trainer mode because you have so much flex. You can kind of move it around without having the quad be so sensitive. Yeah. Especially when you're learning, you're panicking like that. And
Lawn Dog in the chat room was saying the Spectrum DXI, 6 DXI is one of the best transmitters. Absolutely. Yeah. Spectrum, I really, really like. I've got a Spectrum DXI 8 on the way in. That's a really, really nice one. They're kind of pricey though. That's the nice thing about these Fly Skies. They're inexpensive.
Right.
So if you're just getting into the hobby, and the receivers, these things, I bought a set of these things for $8 a pop. So I could control an entire fleet of quads without having to buy a new receiver, which means that when I start building on my own, this is sub $100 now. I can build a quad for less than $100 because I've got all the equipment I already need.
Yeah, I feel like the Futaba might be, if I had gotten comfortable with the Fly Sky and I wanted to build a more expensive quad, I might want to go with the more expensive receiver because I want to make sure that it comes back on a curve and it's not gonna, I can use the repeater system or something like that.
Well, like for example, this is the reason why I have this T6, because right now, with the help of some friends, and I actually got a gig which will let me pay for this thing, but I'm actually putting together an 8 rotor. It's a huge one. Whoa. It's crazy expensive. It's ridiculously expensive. Thankfully, I'm a sunlink for somebody else, so they can pay most of the cost.
And you're going to do this for filming, or?
Yeah, this is one of those super stabilized, has everything. It's expensive. I would not trust that to a Fly Sky transmitter.
Yeah.
I'm going to use Futaba. I'm going to use a DXI Spectrum. I'm going to use one of those because I don't want this thing flying away, and I never want any doubts about whether or not I'm reaching the end of my range.
Yeah, these are some good options, and I think if you know that you're gonna really you're getting into quadcopters, and you definitely are gonna get like some more expensive ones, you might want to lean towards the Futaba, and then you have more options down the road. Right. Whereas if you're kind of on the fence and you're like me and you just want to fly
Sky,
you just want to fly and you want to save some money, Fly Sky. I had a blast with that thing.
Exactly.
I used it over the break until my prop fell off. So.
And remember, the key to getting in this hobby is to keep the price low. Keep the entry price low, and then you can decide whether or not you want to do it. The way that we're building this, we're going to do an updated parts list at the end of the last segment, right before we go on to Christmas break. We've gotten the price of the entire system, the complete system, to down under $200.
Right.
That includes the transmitter if you buy a FlySky. There were a couple of questions in the chat room I want to answer really quickly, and I'm going to answer these multiple times because these are important. Someone was saying, well, how high can you go before interfering with the FAA? The rule is 400 AGL, above ground level. Do not go above 400 AGL. If you go above 400 AGL, you are one of those jerks who will end up on YouTube with everyone making fun of you because you ruin the hobby for everybody else.
Right.
If you don't go above 400 AGL, you're not going to get in trouble with the FAA. You're not interfering with any flight paths. Oh, and by the way, don't fly near an airport.
Yeah.
That's just a bad idea.
Let's exercise some common sense there.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me,
Don't fly over people.
if I get a quadcopter about 100 feet in the air, I start to like not see it anymore. You know, with the smaller ones. So
line of sight rules.
Yeah.
Keep it within line of sight. Keep it so that you can ditch it. Another good rule, and we'll talk about this later on, is be ready to chop your throttle. You can fix your quadcopter. You may not be able to fix what you run into.
Yeah.
So if like you get confused and you can't remember which way is forward, and chop throttle, let it fall. You can fix it. Yeah. Some of the worst accidents that you have are people who they get into a situation and they don't know how to react, so they start putting random inputs. And next thing you know, it's a flyaway.
And that's why I really recommend getting one of those $50 quads, the SEMA, and flying it around, because then you get out of that panic mode. I think Patrick, before the show, was relating his story. He let his niece, I think, play with it over break, and she flew it over a roof and panicked, and it fell on the ground. But it's like, if you've been practicing, you know, I'm not going to just throw the throttle down. I'm going to hold it and practice and get it to come back and not panic. So just practice.
And actually, some of the more advanced ones like this, what you can do, once I installed I've got a new flight controller that does compass and everything. If it loses orientation, it will actually point its rear to you.
Oh,
so then,
that's cool.
Or actually, I could like do this, and it would basically go into dumb mode and then just say, okay, go ahead and bring me back, and I can start bringing it back, and it should come towards me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, but can you also, you can program your controller with GPS, so if it loses signal to your transmitter, you could have it come back?
The GPS is on board, so the GPS has to be on the quad. And none of the controllers that we've shown off so far can do that except for that flip, the one from Ready to Fly Quads. And that's an additional module that you have to add in.
Okay.
And yeah, you can do that. So like, for example, on the GPS module that I am playing with, I have this position switch. So when I do this, it sets my home. So it says, okay, this is the position that I want you to return to.
Right.
And then if I flow this switch, it will override me and say, okay, I'm just going to return to home.
Okay, because I'm just trying to think, like, for use case, depending on what you want, if it would be more convenient to have a GPS module on your quad to set that to home, or have it on the transmitter side.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about GPS modules on the transmitter, sometimes they use that in order to do telemetry to the quad. It doesn't help you, though, because you're not moving.
Right.
The quad is.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it's anything like the DJI GPS that I had to struggle with,
We ripped it out.
Yeah, it sounds like if you had it on a transmitter side, that if it loses signal to the quad, that would be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
But next time is the big episode. It's already done. It's a 10-minute pre-record that's going to take you from taking the parts out of the box to assembling them to getting the props tightened.
Nice.
So this is the big one. Don't miss the next episode, because even if you don't plan on building one of the Hobby King kits that we're going to put together, even if you're a bit more advanced and you want to solder, so you're buying parts from Ready to Fly Quads, which is where I actually go, you're going to want to watch this, because this will show you the steps. Putting the motors on us, making sure the frame is okay, putting on the electronics, wiring up the avionics, testing motors for rotation. All that stuff is coming up in the next episode of Know How.
Nice. Yeah. And you just got a clear frame in the mail, so show how to put LEDs and stuff on it?
Maybe.
Was that like supposed to be a surprise? I don't know where you hit it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Was I not supposed to tease that?
Yeah. Now, don't forget that you can always find show notes. So if there's any segment that we talked about today, if you want to learn a little bit more about garbage matting, if you want to know more about transmitters, if you want to know what about ESCs or how to do premise wiring, just go to our show notes page and you'll be able to find it all. And Brian, where do they find those?
Oh, I think that's on twit.tv/KH. And not just the show notes, but all previous episodes that we've done. And you know, like you were saying, stay tuned for the next episode. But if you've missed some of the previous ones that have our quadcopter information, you'll definitely want to go back and check it out. And yeah, I have to give you credit. The show notes have been really good. You've kept track of all the parts we've been getting, all the prices. So if you have we mentioned something in an episode and you want to find out where you can get it, definitely check out the show notes.
Right, right. And don't forget that you can always find us at our Google Plus page. It is a vibrant community. Just go ahead, jump over to Google Plus, look for know-how. Join us, join the community. What you'll find is that there are people in there from all different experience levels. We've got experts, beginners, noobs. If you want to learn how to solder, if you have a question about a computer component that's not acting correctly, if you've got questions about drones, jump in, ask a question, or answer a question.
Or if, like earlier, you do a garbage mat project and you want to show it off, put it in the community. And
yes, please.
We'd be glad to check it out.
And don't forget that you...
Exactly.
Well, now you can find... Oh, man, he's all gone. You can also find us... Oh, that's just weird. You can find us on Twitter if you're not big into the G Plus group. You can find me at twitter.com/PadreSJ. That's at PadreSJ.
And I am at cranky_hippo.
And don't forget our TD,
Yes.
Alex. You can find him at ANELF3, ANELF3.
The man matting from behind the monitors over there.
The man, the myth, the button-pressing madman guy. Until next time, I'm Father Robert Balacer.
And I'm Brian Burnett.
And now that you know how,
Go do it. Go fly quads.
ready to fly.
Ready to fly quads.